Sahanau bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navadhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So there were a couple of comments and question from the previous session. So I'll bring that up one after the other. So my friend Pratap had a couple of comments. So when and it's also related to the question that another friend of mine, Kiran Prasad, had raised about the idea of noble people who are sages and sannyasis, they facing a lot of challenges in their lives. So Kiran had, referred to a couple of instances from the life of Swami Vivekananda and Ramana Maharshi and all these people who are, regarded as the highest, saints in our tradition, in especially in the recent years, people like, Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. All these are very regarded as even muktas. They are reached the highest level. But when we look at their physical life, many times we see that they are in such abysmal conditions or they went through so much of difficulty, and naturally this lead to this other question of why bad things happen to good people. This is like a question that often we are confronted with. I think people have even written some books about this topic and so on. So you can imagine what kind of what kind of expanse this topic has. But a short answer to this question is that, as far as they are concerned, they are seeing everything as one. And from their point of view, it is not seen as suffering, or it is not seen as great pain, because they are transcended it. Now, for example, if you go to a hospital, go to a cancer ward, for example, or a ward where people are there's a patient who's lying down and who's suffering from a great disease, and you're a doctor, you're going there. You as a doctor know that this person is suffering from incurable disease, or is probably going to die in some time. But if the patient is asleep, okay, when the patient is in deep sleep, from that patient's point of view, is there suffering? Is there a cancer? Is there a heart ailment? Is there a brain ailment? No. From that point of view of the patient, he is in complete peace because he is in deep sleep. From the other side, when we see, oh my God, this person has got a heart ailment, or this person has got a brain hemorrhage, or whatever, right? So we are looking at it from a wakeful point of view, from a material point of view. Whereas for somebody like Ramana or Buddha or Ramakrishna, all these people, even though they are awake, they are in that state of mind where it is not connected with the material world. So they are just observing the movement of the material world. So therefore, this is immaterial. So whether they lived in great comfort or in great pain, mentally they have reached that stage. Also, it is very difficult, probably impossible, for somebody to get into that state of mind without going through some amount of physical suffering, because they have to realize that this body is only secondary to the higher spirit. So if the body is not subjected to certain kind of difficulty, we won't realize that we are not the body. Because if we are living in comforts, we are always having the AC, we are always having the food we like, we're always around people we like, then we think this is the reality because it is so pleasurable, so nice. It is only when we are subject to difficult conditions, subject to an environment beyond this, we realize the strength and the possibility of the human spirit, right? Now, when you see Viktor Frankl's The Man's Search for Meaning, or when you see the kind of spirit that was driving freedom fighters like Savarkar when they are in the cellular jail, when we look at it, we are shocked, right? How can they be in such despicable conditions and still survive it? these people lived for many years. It's not just they, Viktor Frankl, I think, came out of the concentration camp, and after that he lived for another 40 years. Savarkar came out of the Andaman jail. After that he lived for another 30 or 40 years. So like this, these people have gone through untold suffering, but that push them away from connectedness with the body and move them to more towards themselves, more within, more inward looking. So that's my explanation to this. This is the way I have understood. Now, so I think I have answered Kiran's point. And also with regard to one other point my friend Pratap was making is that sometimes we feel that they have traded the physical suffering for the mental suffering. And he gave an example of how sometimes in the IT world, we have traded the physical suffering for mental suffering. So we have got a comfortable life with a fantastic salary and everything, but in exchange, we are agreeing to be under constant mental stress. There are some people who have said, I don't care about physical comfort. I want more of mental peace. So I may get a measly salary and work in a small place, but I want to be peaceful. I don't want to be stuck in a late night call at 11 o'clock answering some clients in another part of the world. So it's a trade-off. Of course, some people are lucky to have both physical comfort and mental comfort. So it's the more important thing is the hierarchy that whether we see in Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads. The level of the body and the material level is a basic level. It is important, definitely, but we have to strive to go beyond that. That is when we can have lasting enjoyment. Otherwise, we are stuck in physical enjoyment. It is short-lived. Always physical enjoyment, whether it is through the senses, whether it is food, or whether it is listening to some music, whether it is sex, whether it is watching a movie, all these things, it can only have a limited amount of enjoyment. Whereas when we are engaging in something which is beyond material, like some deep literature or some meditation or something which is beyond the very, very rudimentary material world, sensual world, there is a possibility of sustained enjoyment. And when we are transcending even that and we are realizing that our own nature is that of Ananda, we don't need any external trigger also for us to realize that. That is the highest state. And also my co-author, Dr. Sri Krishna, shared this comment this morning. When we talk about, bhakti, jnana, prapatti, surrender, all these ideas, Bhagavad Gita gives this, closing the loop from, we see the entire range of things. So there's a quote from Hopkins from Religion of India, a book that was released in 1895. He says in the Vedic hymns, when we look at the Vedas, man fears the gods, he imagines God. In the Brahmana literature, man subdues the gods and fears the God. In the Upanishads, man ignores the God and becomes God. This is a bit of a generalization, but still it's very nice because the entire range of possibilities are shown. You can visualize God, you can worship God, you can adore, you can fear God, you can also become God. This entire spectrum of possibilities is only presented in the Indian tradition. Nowhere else we find all the variety. So starting from fearing God all the way to becoming God, the complete identification which we see in the Advaita Vedanta school, the entire possibility is there, and we are free to pick any of these. And ultimately, all these paths lead to the same goal. This is also reiterated in the Gita. Okay, so with these, initial discussions, let us get going to the sixth chapter. And another point Pratap was making, if you are when we look at the words like tapas and meditation and great focus on intense focus on activities and all that, how is this applicable to us in today's world when we think about it? Because those days we find some rishis, some saints sitting and meditating for months together and trying to realize the supreme. And he referred to one of the poems from D.V. Gundappa, and he said that today's world, even leading a good family life is like a tapas. even many of you who have got the families know this. Just to manage your wife, your husband, your kids, your parents, all this entire setup, everybody has different needs. From the point of view of a woman, that she has to take care of the family in a certain way. From a point of view of a man, he has to take care of the family in a certain way. Everybody have their own focuses, right? So then the growing children, the aged parents, and managing this entire setup itself is like a tapas. It is no less than a tapas, right? And to manage this with a cheerful face, and to balance all these different things. But if your children are throwing a certain kind of tantrum, your parents are throwing a different kind of tantrum. Here they are kids, so you can shout at them. Your parents, you cannot shout at them, but still they are behaving like children. How to deal with all this? So the manner in which you deal with the family dynamics itself is like a tapas. It's like walking on the edge of a sword. So if you can do this successfully without getting perturbed, by these realities, that itself is it's like a tapas. It's a great training ground. So whenever you face a difficulty, instead of looking at it as a difficulty, if you look at it as a today's new challenge, I don't know how many of you do this kind of a daily puzzle or something. Some of us, like, I wake up in the morning, usually I will do a crossword, or New York Times has this thing called NYT Connections. I have great fun doing that. About 10-15 minutes, instead of wasting my time reading the news, I usually do a crossword or some puzzle, just to, it's just great fun to do it. So when you're doing a puzzle, you have signed up for it, you enjoy it, so you don't curse it if you don't get the answer. You're thinking about the clue, and you're really racking your brains and trying to get it right. And the entire process is very enjoyable, which is why you go back to it, whether it is a Sudoku, whether it is a Kakuro, whatever you are doing every day. So similarly, when you're facing a difficult challenge in your life, if you're looking at it as something which is a module for improving your level of awareness, then you can be more relaxed, and you can take it as a challenge, and then try to apply all the learnings of Bhagavad Gita, whatever you have learned. Now apply that. Oh, this is what is said in the 5th chapter. Okay, let me try to apply it in this situation. Then it becomes so much more easier to navigate past it. Okay, so with this, let's get to our 6th chapter, 21st shloka. So we had a look at this 20th one, with the thoughts restrained and the mind silenced by the regular practice of yoga. The yogi sees the Atman through the Atman, and he finds rejoices in the Atman, right? So now we go to the 21st. Sukham atyantikam yat tad buddhi grahyam atindriyam vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitash chalati tattvataha. A yogi will never stray from the truth once he attains infinite bliss that transcends the senses and can be perceived only by intuition. Now, this is again very, very nice verse. He says, Yatra yat tat buddhi grahyam atindriyam. So it can be understood, it is possible to be understood by intellect, but it is atindriyam. It transcends the senses. It is somewhat intuitive. It requires a certain perception to grasp it. Atyantikam sukham. So it is kind of all round infinite comfort, infinite bliss. So yatra, when yat tat, what is buddhigrahyam atindriyam atyantikam sukham vetti, once he knows this, yatra cha sthitaha, and once he is established in that, ayam tattvataha na eva chalati, he never strays from what is tattva, what is truth. So the word tattva itself, which is often used to denote reality, tattva means thatness, like happiness, right? The element, the quality of being happy is called happiness. So the quality of existence is tattva. So when somebody knows what it is, and knowing, like we have seen earlier in our tradition, knowing, understanding, and becoming are one and the same. There is no concept of knowing theoretically but behaving differently, then that person is not really knowing it. Truly knowing itself means also bringing it into practice. So once the yogi attains that infinite bliss that transcends senses, you will never stray from the truth. Because what is the reason to stray from the truth? Either it can be moha, it can be mada, it can be certain desires that we have, ulterior motives, or we have certain other negative emotions. But when one is filled with bliss, one is so happy, one is so contented, and one has attained the level of complete holistic bliss, which has gone beyond the senses. So one is a sensory enjoyment. This is not even sensory. This is a super sensory enjoyment. Like, for example, the enjoyment we get from great literature or music or any art, or the enjoyment we get when we are with loved ones. That kind of, it's not a very sensory enjoyment, but it is beyond that. It's a step higher than a sensory enjoyment. When you play with when you're sitting and playing with a baby, and the baby is smiling, and you're holding that baby, and you're having a great time, it is kind of beyond a sensory thing. It is not just a sensory enjoyment. So similarly, from music or literature, or when you are doing a deep meditation and the fulfillment you get from that, so all these things are bliss that transcend the senses. But when that becomes all round and infinite in its nature, which it can be perceived only by intuition, then there is no opportunity for you to stray from the truth. So, sukham atyantikam yat tat.
Sukham atyantikam yat tat.
Buddhi grahyam atindriyam.
Buddhi grahyam atindriyam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Sthitaschalati tattvataha.
Sthitaschalati tattvataha.
Then he says, thank you. Then he says, Yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthitona dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Upon gaining this infinite bliss, the yogi realizes that there is no greater attainment. And once the yogi is established thus, he is not moved by even the deepest sorrow. Another beautiful verse. The yam cha labdhva, having attained this state, right? One who has attained the state, tataha adhikam aparam labham na manyate. He realizes that there is nothing greater, there is nothing superior to this. This is the highest level. You already attained this. He realizes that this is it. No, you are climbing a huge mountain like a Mount Everest or something. Once you scale the peak, once you are standing on top of the world, you know there is nothing more than this. There is no other staircase which is taking you to a higher level. There's nothing. You have attained the highest possible by a creature that lives on land. The highest point in on the earth is Mount Everest. You already scaled it. There's nothing more than this. You already reached that place, he says. So yamcha labdhva, having attained this tataha adhikam aparam labham na manyate. There is no attainment, no gain higher than this. Yasmin sthitaha, having been established in that, guruna dukkhena api na vichalyate. So even the deepest sorrow, guru is the one meaning of the word guru is teacher. Guru in a general sense also means something which is very heavy. So guruna dukkhena, even by the most heaviest, deepest sorrow, apina vichalyate, he is not shaken, he is not moved, he is not disturbed by even the deepest sorrow. So once you reach that stage, whatever the deepest sorrow that for the people who have not reached the stage, it looks like deepest sorrow. For them, it doesn't matter. They have gone beyond this. Yam labdhva chaparam labham.
Yam labdhva chaparam labham.
Manyate nadhikam tataha.
Manyate nadhikam tataha.
Yasmin sthito na dukkhena.
Yasmin sthito na dukkhena.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Then he says, Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam sa nischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. So he should practice yoga with undaunted determination because it is a blissful state of being. Once you attain that state, you has to do yoga with a determination, with without any other expectation. We also saw earlier, right? The path for somebody who wants to go up in the in his spiritual journey, who wants to climb the mountain, work is the path. Once he has attained that stage, then serenity is the path. Once you have climbed the mountain, you have to just relax. So just initially, when the flight is taking off, it has to put all the energy and go up. Once it has attained cruising at a height of 30,000 feet or whatever, it just has to be serene and balanced. That's all. So here, tam dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam vidyat. So dukkha samyoga viyogam. So so to um, how do you say this? So you should the one which is associating with it takes away the association from dukkha. So the path of yoga itself, or the practice of yoga itself, is something which takes one away from the difficulties of life. It is a blissful state of being. And saha yoga anirvinna chetasa nischayena yoktavya. So without any disturbance, he has to practice this yoga with undaunted determination and focus, without moving away from it, and with great resolve. And he will attain this because it is leading to this blissful state. Basically, the instruction for somebody to continue on the path of yoga. So, tam vidya dukkha samyoga,
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga,
viyogam yoga sangitam,
viyogam yoga sangitam,
sa nischayena yoktavyo,
sa nischayena yoktavyo,
yogo nirvinna chetasa.
yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Then he says, sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan asheshataha manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. So the first line, if it is joined with the second line, it will become sankalpa prabhavan kamam tyaktva sarvan asheshataha manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. So this person who is reaching the higher level, okay, so then this one is connected to the next verse. So he should renounce without the slightest remnants all desires born of selfish motives, and he should completely control his senses with the power of the mind. Then the next one is connected to this. Shanai Shanai Ruparamed Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstham Manakritva Na Kinchidapi Chintayet. Little by little, thinking of nothing else, he should attain stillness of mind and focus it firmly on the Atman. So, Sankalpa Prabhavan Sarvan Kaman Asheshatah Tyaktva. So, Sankalpa Prabhavan. So, he must take a resolve and Sarvan Kaman Asheshatah Tyaktva. So, all desires without the trace left, without any remnants, Asheshataha, without the slightest remnants, he should renounce all the desires born of selfish motives, all kama, all desires, having removed it, manasa eva samantataha, through the mind, he is balancing indriya gramam viniyamya. So having controlled all the sense organs with the power of the mind, dhriti grihitaya buddhya, so holding, by using the intellect, he is very firm, he is having fortitude, and he has controlled his body with his mind. Basically, you can look at it that way. Shanai Shanai Uparame. So, step by step, he has to reach this level where he attains this enjoyment and peace. Manaha Atma Samstham Kritva Kinchit Apina Chintayet. So, slowly he focuses more and more and establish the mind on the Atman, and he does not think about anything else. He is completely emptied his mind and he's focusing completely on the Atman. So this is again a kind of methodology for meditation. This is what typically is being prescribed, where you're slowly getting rid of your thoughts and completely immersed in oneself. Just 1 second. School is going to start, so little by little you should focus on the inner self and try to empty the thoughts, attain stillness of mind, get rid of all the selfish desires, and completely control the body and the sense organs with the mind. So let's look at both these verses, one after the other. Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman.
Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman.
Tyaktva Sarvan Asheshataha.
Yaktva Sarvan Asheshataha.
Manasaivendriya Gramam.
Manasaivendriya Gramam.
Viniyamya Samantataha.
Viniyamya Samantataha.
Viniyamya Samantataha. Then Shanai Shanai Ruparamet.
Shanai Shanai Ruparamet.
So when Uparamet plus Buddhya will become Uparamed Buddhya, and we are reading it one by one. So Uparamet Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya.
Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya.
Atma Samstham Manah Kritva.
Atma Samstham Manah Kritva.
Na Kinchidapi Chintayet.
Na Kinchidapi Chintayet.
Then he goes on to say, Yato Yato Nischarati Manas Chanchalam Asthiram Tatastato Niyamyaitat Atmanyeva Vasham Nayet. So Tatastato Niyamyaitad Atmanyeva Vasham Nayet. When it in both the lines together, it will become a da. Otherwise, it will be Niyamyaitat space, then Atmanyeva Vasham Nayet. Whenever and wherever the unsteady and restless mind tends to stray away, then and there he should pull it back and bring it under its control, under his control. So Chanchalam Asthiram Manaha. Chanchalam, it's very, very turbulent, it is distracted. And Asthiram, not stable, unstable, shaking. So the mind that is turbulent and shaking and restless and unsteady, Yataha Yataha Nischarati. Wherever and whenever it kind of strays away from the focus, tataha tataha, then and there, etat niyamya, having controlled this, atmani evam vasham nayet. So pull it back and bring it back under the control of oneself. It seems like a very, very basic instruction, but this is so important, not just for meditation alone. Any activity, especially in today's world of distraction, where everybody is craving to, capture your attention, it is so important. And I'm sure many of us would have experienced this. You're working on something important, and suddenly there is a notification, or we get distracted, and then we are gone for half an hour, 45 minutes. You're surfing the internet, or you're checking something on WhatsApp. So it's so easy to get distracted, but one need not feel bad about oneself because we are getting distracted, because it is the nature of the mind to get distracted. It is the nature of the mind to stray away from the path what we have in mind. So if we don't have focus, that is the default condition. We are trying to get focus, But if we don't have focus, it's a default condition. So on the one hand, we should not become lazy and say, anyway, default is no focus. Why should I work and get focus? One should not go to that extreme of becoming lazy and accepting the status quo. At the same time, one should not feel so bad that, oh my God, why am I getting distracted? I should be focused, and cursing oneself for that. So the instruction here, wherever the mind, unsteady, restless mind strays from the path, then and there you bring it back. The moment you realize that, oh, I have been distracted from my work and I have wasted my time on WhatsApp, the moment you realize it, you let go of WhatsApp and get back to your work. That is much better than you keeping the WhatsApp down and cursing yourself. Why is this happening to me? I want to be focused. I am really sincerely trying, but why is my mind getting distracted? It's a waste of another 2 minutes, or even it's a waste of another 30 seconds, or maybe a waste of 10 seconds. The moment you realize that you are strayed from the path, then and there you pull it back and bring it under control. So this is very, very practical advice for everybody, not just in the case of meditation, but also any activity that you're doing. Yato yato nischarati.
Yato yato nischarati.
Manaschanchala asthiram.
Manaschanchala asthiram.
Tatastato niyamyaitat.
Tatastato niyamyaitat.
Atmanyeva vasham nayet.
Atmanyeva vasham nayet.
Then he says, Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. A yogi attains supreme joy once he overcomes restlessness, keeps his mind calm, breaks free from evil, and tunes himself to Brahman. Another beautiful verse. Prashanta manasam. The mind has become very, very overjoyed, prashanta, which is happy and delighted, happy and peaceful. Both there are elements of peace and happiness. Prashanta manasam hi shanta rajasam akalmasham brahma bhutam enam yoginam uttamam sukham upaiti. He attains the highest joy, supreme joy, uttamam sukham. He attains upaiti, yoginam, that yogi, when he keeps his mind calm, prashanta manasam, is unruffled and peaceful and happy, then shanta rajasam, he has silenced the turbulence. Akalmasham, that means he's free from all evil and negative thoughts. Brahma bhutam, one almost he has become Brahma, he has tuned himself to Brahma. He's ready to realize it. So in this kind of shades of meaning we can find here, but basically tunes himself to Brahman. So when he does this, excuse me, he attains supreme joy. So prashanta manasam, that means he has become relaxed and he has overcome the restlessness. Shanta rajasam, he is keeping his mind calm and silenced all the turbulence. Third is akalpasham, which is free from all evil thoughts. Fourth is brahma bhutam. He is tuning himself to Brahman. He is on the path of Brahman. He has become one with Brahman. All the possibilities are there. When these cases, these conditions are fulfilled, then he attains uttamam sukham, the ultimate supreme joy. Prashanta manasam hyenam.
Prashanta manasam hyenam.
Yoginam sukham uttamam.
Yoginam sukham uttamam.
Upaiti shanta rajasam.
Upaiti shanta rajasam.
Brahma bhutam akalmasham.
Brahma bhutam akalmasham.
Then yunjan nevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. Again, he's continuing. So free from all papas and ever in unison with the self, yogi at once feels boundless joy that comes from merging with Brahman. So Vigata kalmashaha, one who is free from all evils. Vigata kalmashaha yogi, the yogi who is free from all papa, free from all evil, all sin. Evam, indeed, Atmanam Sada Yunjan, one who is always united with the Atman. Sukhena Atyan, Sukhena from Sukha. So the enjoyment that comes from being connected to the Atma. So Atmanam Sada Yunjan Sukhena Atyantam Sukham. The yogi enjoy, feels that boundless joy. Brahma samsparsham ashnute, that comes with contact with Brahman, or that comes with merging with Brahman. The joy is immediately felt. So there is no lag in time. The moment the negative thoughts are gone, the moment is united with the self, at once he feels that boundless joy, which is very, very typical of the union with Brahman, merging with Brahman. So he's able to see the entire universe as part of himself. He's able to unite with the all-pervading Supreme Spirit. So there is no question of feeling that somebody is another. He feels everybody, everything as part of himself. So that is the whole idea. Excuse me. We'll also see this in some of the following shlokas, where there is no distinction between me and another. In that state, everybody is, everything, every aspect of creation is seen as part of the Atman. So, Yunjan Nevam Sadatmanam.
Yunjan Nevam Sadatmanam.
Yogi Vigata Kalmashaha.
Yogi Vigata Kalmashaha.
Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham.
Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham.
Atyantam Sukham Ashnute.
Atyantam Sukham Ashnute.
Then he says, Sarvabhutastham Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Like what I said. So in that state, Yogi sees the Atman in all beings and all beings in the Atman. Everywhere he sees the same Atman. So he connects with the entire universe, the whole of creation. Wherever he sees the same Atman, and in the Atman he sees everything. So Yoga Yuktatma, the one who is, who has attained the highest state, the yogi, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Everywhere he sees the same Atma. He's got the same, the manner in which he looks at the entire whole of creation is the same way. Atmanam Sarvabhutastham. So in his own Atma, he sees all being. So Atma Sarvabhutastham, Atmanam Sarvabhutastham, Atmanicha Sarvabhutani Ikshate. So he sees in all the beings, he sees the Atma, his Atman. So there is no his also. It is the Atman, the supreme Brahman and Atman become one and the same. So he sees that in all the beings, and Atmani, within himself, is seeing all the beings. Sarva Bhutani Ikshate. He sees all the beings within himself. So basically, he sees the same Atma everywhere. He makes no distinction between himself and another. Right? So Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam.
Sarva Bhutastham
Sarva Bhutani Chatmani.
Sarva Bhutani Chatmani.
Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma.
Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma.
Sarvatra Samadarshanaha.
Sarvatra Samadarshanaha.
He goes on to say a very, very famous verse. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. One who sees me everywhere, me as in Krishna or Brahman, whatever you like to take it, reference to Atman. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. Yaha, the person, one, Mam Sarvatra Pashyati, one who sees me everywhere. Sarvam cha Mai Pashyati, one who sees everything in me, tasya aham, to that person, I am na pranashyami. I am not lost to such a person. Saha cha me, saha, that person, he me na pranashati, he is not lost to me. So basically, that there is constant union once when he sees everything as part of the divine play. He sees the divinity in everything. He sees everything in the divine. This, basically, he sees the Brahman everywhere. He sees no distinction. In that case, there is no gap between uh, the individual and the divine. So there is a constant union. There is no break. So he says, I am never lost to him, nor is he lost to me. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra,
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र
sarvam cha mai pashyati,
सर्वं च मयि पश्यति
tasyaham na pranashyami,
तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि
sacha me na pranashyati.
स च मे न प्रणश्यति.
Then he says, Sarvabhuta sthitam yomam bhajatyekatvam asthitah sarvatha vartamanopi sa yogi mai vartate. So the yogi who is aware of this oneness, he worships me as the one who lives in all beings. He abides in me regardless of his way of living. Another very nice verse. So ekatvam asthitah yaha. The person who is aware of this oneness, this all connecting oneness, right? Ekatvam astitaha yaha, one who is established in this oneness, who understands this oneness, sarva bhuta sthitam mam bhajati. He worships me as one who lives in all beings. That means a person who has got this awareness looks at the whole of creation as being divinely imbued. So he does not treat different people in different manners. So he's a samadarshi. Of course, he will. The actual transaction with different individuals will be different based on the requirement. But in spirit, he does not make any distinction. He sees the same Paramatma in every living, non-living being. He does not make a distinction based on, oh, this person is from this religion, this person is from this country, this is a lowly creature, this is a higher creature. He does not make any such distinction. He worships, the manner in which he worships the Supreme is as if the Supreme is living in every one of these beings. And such a person always abides in the Supreme regardless of his way of living. So yaha sarva bhuta sthitam mam bhajati. He worships me as one who is established in all the beings. Saha yogi, such a yogi, this yogi, he saha sarvatha vartamanaha api mai vartate. So, mai vartate, he abides in me. And here, this saha yogi sarvatha vartamanaha should be understood, I think, as one should not put too fine a point about the external external appearance of such people, or external details of such people. So irrespective of his way of living, the manner in which he dresses, or the manner in which he eats, or how he lives his life, this may vary from different person to person. But what is really important is having attained this state where you realize the oneness of the oneness behind the whole of creation, he is firmly established in the Supreme. Now, often we see the so-called eccentricities in the sages and sannyasis, right? So one of the examples for it is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. When he was worshipping in the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar, a lot of people thought he was a madman, because he was having an actual vision of the goddess, and he was so much going into this kind of trance, and always thinking about the higher level things. So for the normal people, they think he's a mad guy. Only few people realized his greatness and supported him. And then later, of course, with Vivekananda going to him, he became well known. But till the time, people thought he is just a mad guy. Now, if we take the example of Buddha, he was Siddhartha Gautama, and he left everything and he was a royal family and then went to meditate. So he was, wearing some ochre robes. In the case of Ramana Maharshi, he gave up all his clothes except a kaupina, which is like a undergarment, nothing else. He was bare-bodied, sitting and meditating on, the Supreme in the Tiruvannamalai. Like that, if you see Nisargadatta Maharaj, he was working in a beedi factory, rolling the beedis, and that was his profession, and he was wearing some normal clothes. So each one of these people who are all from different backgrounds and different communities and different way of dressing. So you don't have like a standard uniform for all Jivan Muktas. Doesn't exist. They may be however it is immaterial because they are transcending the physical plane. So Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yomam
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां
Bhajatyekatvamasthitah
भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः
Sarvatha Vartamanopi
सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि
Sa Yogi Mai Vartate.
स योगी मयि वर्तते.
Then he says, Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. He is indeed a yogi, Arjuna, who sees true equality of all beings and relates to the joy and sorrow of other people just as he relates to his own joy and sorrow. This idea is again is repeated, but this is a beautiful verse. Arjuna, so he says, Tasmat, to be understood. Sukham bhavatu yadiva tasmat dukkham. So sukham yadiva dukkham, whether it is joy or sorrow, yaha one atmaupamyena sarvatra. So almost like as if he is feeling it. Atma upama. So upama is like a comparison or simile, right? So just as if it is happening to him, atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati. He sees the same way, just like as if it is happening to him. Although it is not happening to him, he is able to feel it just as if it is happening to him. He has got that level of empathy, that heightened empathy, where he is able to relate to the joy and sorrow of others just as he is able to relate to his own joys and sorrows. So that kind of super empathy to understand, but doesn't mean he is not affected by his own joys and sorrows. So definitely he won't be affected by the others, but he's able to understand and relate to the other people. So he's able to be one with other people. So samam pashyati, one who can see it the same way. Saha param yogi mataha. So in my opinion, this is the highest level. He is really indeed a yogi. He is the best of yogis. Excuse me. So a true yogi does not discriminate between himself or herself and other people. So because the yogi knows that he or she is one with the rest, he's able to relate to their joys and sorrows. He's able to provide solace. At the same time, he is not affected by any joys and sorrows, including his own. So this state of being is something which is really very hard to accomplish, because we are all so driven by our own inner cravings. In fact, one of the greatest teachings in the Upanishads, which comes in one of the biggest Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and also probably one of the oldest Upanishads, one of the greatest teaching by this sage, Yajnavalkya, he says at the end of in the ultimate analysis, you don't love anybody but yourself. Do you love your wife? No, you don't. Do you love your husband? No, you don't. Do you love your kids? No, you don't. You love your wife because she is your wife. You love your kids because they are your kids. You love your mother because she is your mother. So really at the end of it, things are dear to you because you love yourself. It's brutal and honest estimation of the human condition. I don't think it can get more brutal and more honest than this. So this is the basic state of being, that we are all driven by our desires. Whatever we do is, we are at the center of our universe. This is the natural condition. There's nothing wrong with it. There is no stain, no taint, but this is the natural condition. This is the reality. And it takes a great deal of effort, either pursuing the karma marga, working relentlessly towards accomplishing this state of oneness with everyone, or bhakti marga, where one is completely surrendering oneself and completely purging the ego, with the focus on the supreme, or the jnana marga, where one understands all the mechanics of how these things work, and uh, analyzing threadbare the mechanism of desire and thought and interaction with the world. Unless this is done, it is so difficult to let go of selfishness, because everything we do, even if we do social work, even if we donate our money, even if we help somebody, it is all driven by feeling good about it. I am doing this great noble action, therefore I am an amazing person. To get that feeling, we do it. So at the end of the day, to really completely wipe out that ego is very, very hard. That's the constant attempt that happens. So when these things are mentioned in the Gita, we must never forget that this is really very hard to accomplish in practice. It sounds simple, it feels so nice if we can do that, and we can have a romantic view of it. But the harsh reality is that if we have to let go of our selfish motives, it is extremely hard, and very, very few people can do it. However, we are be on a constant attempt to try to become less and less selfish. Although it's very difficult, if we don't move in the direction, then we will never progress. We will be stuck with what we are born with. Atmaupamyena sarvatra
आत्मौपन्येन सर्वत्र
samam pashyati yorjuna
समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन
sukham va yadi va dukkham
सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं
sa yogi paramo mataha.
स योगी परमो मतः.
Arjuna asks, Yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. So now Arjuna says, Krishna, you have taught me that yoga is in essence equanimity of mind, but I am unable to perceive how one can attain the state of steadiness given that the mind is so fickle. A very pertinent question. Madhusudana, yaha ayam yoga tvaya samyena proktaha. So what you have said so far, yoga is samye, what you have samyena proktaha. So that you have said that it is equanimity, it is balance, right? That's what you have said. Proktaha, it's been told by you. Manasaha chanchalatvat etasya sthiram sthitim aham na pashyami. Given that the manas, the mind, is chanchala, it is so turbulent, etasya sthiram, this steadiness you're talking about, sthiram sthitim, state of steadiness, aham na pashyami, I don't see how one can attain this state given that the mind is so fickle. So Arjuna uvacha,
अर्जुन उवाच
Yoyam yogastvaya proktaha
योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः
samyena madhusudana
साम्येन मधुसूदन
etasyaham na pashyami
एतस्याहं न पश्यामि
chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram.
चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम्.
Then he continues the question. He says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavad dridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. So the mind is restless, Krishna. It is turbulent, it is powerful, it is unyielding. Controlling the mind seems as difficult as controlling the wind. Can we control the wind? Can you hold it? Can you put a barrier like this? If there is a strong wind, can you stop the wind? How can you control the wind? It is so difficult to capture the wind in your hand or push it or something, right? It is so subtle, it is so difficult. So controlling the mind is almost like trying to control the wind. It seems almost as impossible as that. Krishna, manaha hi chanchalam. So it is a very, very turbulent thing, the mind. And balavat dridham pramathi. So balavat, it is very forceful and it is, kind of unyielding and powerful, and it just drags you like a gush of wind, just pushes one away. The mind has got that power to just completely, like wash you off. It kind of blows you in whatever direction it wants. So balavat dridham pramathi aham tasya nigraham, that the control of that, aham, I, vayoho iva sudushkaram manye, I deem it to be as difficult to control the mind as it is to control wind. So how difficult it is to control, it's almost impossible to control the wind, right? So I deem it to be as difficult as impossible to control the mind, he says. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavadridham.
Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavadridam.
Tasyaham nigraham manye.
Tasyaham nigraham manye.
Vayoriva sudushkaram.
Vayoriva sudushkaram.
Almost as impossible, as impractical, as difficult as controlling the wind. Vayoriva sudushkaram. Then Krishna has the famous response to Arjuna, a beautiful verse. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Asamshayam Mahabaho, Mano Durnigraham Chalam, Abhyasena tu Kaunteya, Vairagyena cha Grihyate. So Krishna says, without doubt, O mighty one, again, Mahabaho. Yeah, I mentioned to you earlier how this is often used when he's kind of mocking at the limitations of physical strength. Mahabaho, great, mighty one. Without doubt, the mind is restless and tough to restrain, but the mind can be controlled by practice and by detachment. So Mahabaho, asamshayam, doubtless, there is no doubt what you're saying. Manaha durnigraham, the mind is very, very difficult to control. Durnigraha, and it is chalam, it is very, very restless. So both are right. One is because it is restless, it is difficult to restrain. Kaunteya, son of Kunti, abhyasena, by rigorous, assiduous practice, to indeed vairagyena, by detachment, by complete withdrawal, cha grihyate, it can be controlled. Grihyate. It is possible to control and restrain the mind by sustained practice and by detachment. So abhyasa and vairagya. Both these are very, very important if you want to try and control the mind. So he gives a practical possibility of how it can be done. So we'll close with this shloka. Sri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Mano Durnigraham Chalam.
Mano Durnigraham Chalam.
Abhyasena tu Kaunteya.
Abhyasena tu Kaunteya.
Vairagyena cha Grihyate.
Vairagyena cha Grihyate.
So we see how in today's whatever we discuss, there is an emphasis on trying to find that oneness and this equanimity of mind, this balance of mind. Only when we are able to be stable can we realize, can we empathize with other person's joys and sorrows, right? So one of the ideas that came about earlier was this Atmaupamyena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati, O Arjuna, one who can relate to the joys and sorrows of others just as he relates to his or her own. This is only possible when one is balanced in his mind. It is not possible if one is turbulent and somebody is having so much of difficulty and they are themselves disturbed. How can you help another person? So if you are balanced, if you are a happy individual, if you are able to bear the load of your life very comfortably, only then you can help somebody else. Before you put your oxygen mask, you cannot help another person, right? That's why in the flight they say first put your oxygen mask, then help another person who is next to you. So like this, if you have put your oxygen mask and you are breathing comfortably, your hands are free to help people next to you. So you are having that ability. So first you have to come to a stage where you are balanced, you are comfortable and peaceful, then definitely you can help other people. But even before you are able to stand, if you try to help other people, then not only will it be useless to the other person, you will also have a fall. So this is what he's trying to say. A lot of very, very powerful, meaningful verses here in the 6th chapter. We'll resume tomorrow and try to wrap it up and then go on to the future chapters. Thank you so much. And